They called it Compton's Civil War, a brutal feud that pitted blood against blood. Town Piru versus Treetop Piru. For 10 long years, revenge ruled the streets. Every insult, every shooting, every death sparked another wave of retaliation. And when the Crips stepped into the mix, the city became a war zone where no one was safe. The headlines only told part of the story. What really happened in those years would haunt Compton for generations and change the streets forever. The story of the Town Piru runs deep in Compton's history. They go by a few names: Eastside Town Piru, ESFTP, or sometimes Town Piru. But no matter what you call them, their presence is felt. They started making noise back in the 1970s, right out of Compton, California. Most of the members are black, but not exclusively. And that Town name is no mystery. Their hood is literally filled with fruit-themed streets: plum, cherry, peach, pear, and fig. That's where the name came from. Even though they started out on Compton's east side, most of their activity later shifted to the west. Their territory runs from Stockwell Street to Rosecrans Avenue between Willowbrook and Wilmington. One of their main hangout spots, known all over, is the Douglas Apartments, right on the corner of Rosecrans and Willowbrook. Another key location is Gonzalez Park on Cressy Street, often called the Red End, where members are frequently seen linking up. When it comes to allies, the Town Piru got a few strong ties. They're connected to the Town Brims, which actually branched off from the original Piru set. They also align with crews like the Cedar Block Piru, Campanella Park Piru, 145 Neighborhood Piru, Westside Piru, Skyline Piru, and the 151 Piru. But of course, it's not all unity in the streets. They've had some deep rivalries too, beefing with the Compton Vario Tortilla Flats, the original Front Hood Compton Crips, and the Treetop Piru. Now, speaking of the Treetop Piru, this crew has their own powerful legacy in Compton, known also as Treetop Piru or Westside Trees. They emerged around the same time in the 1970s, but really made their name in the 1980s. Their reputation grew fast, and not just in California. They became one of the few Compton sets with reach beyond the West Coast, even establishing a known branch in Baltimore, Maryland. Their base is up north in Compton, right below Rosecrans Avenue, stretching between Arambe Avenue and Acacia Avenue. The set is made up of several smaller cliques, each holding down their own block. You got the 300 and 400 blocks east of Arambe, while the 500 and 600 blocks sit west. Then there's the 800 and 900 blocks along North Hickory Street, each clique keeping the Treetop name alive in their area. As for who they ride with, the Treetop Piru are closely aligned with the Westside Piru and Campanella Park Piru. But just across the Rosecrans line lies one of their fiercest rivals, the Town Pirus. That feud isn't new, it's been brewing for decades. But one summer night, things went too far, and that old rivalry turned deadly. It's August 14th, 2005, and Thiasa Wandick is making that long drive from Bakersfield to Los Angeles to pick up her boyfriend, Bland. They'd been together for about 6 months, and this wasn't just some ordinary couple. Bland was a member of Town Piru, a blood set. For the ride back, Bland brought along his homie Bernoudi, who happened to be from 87 Gangsta Crip. So now you've got a Blood, a Crip, and Wandick all riding together. During the drive, Bland even pulled out his gun, the one with the wooden handle, and flashed it at Wandick like it was no big deal. When they finally got back to Bakersfield, Wandick drove straight to her best friend Dwayna Phillips' place. Phillips was married to Prince, an ex-Crip. Prince wasn't home when they pulled up, but Phillips quickly noticed Bland's gun and told him to put it away. Bland just shrugged, saying he never went anywhere without it, though he did hand it off to Bernoudi for a while. Eventually, Bland tucked the gun under Wandick's car seat. After some tension, Phillips asked them to leave, so they checked into a Motel 6 nearby. A little later, things got messy back at Phillips's house. Prince came home furious, throwing stuff and chasing his wife out of the house. She drove straight to the Motel 6, telling Wandick how angry Prince had been. He even threw her phone. While she was talking, Bland sat there playing with his gun, pointing it at Wandick now and then. Then he looked right at Phillips and said something cold. If his own sister had a man who treated her like Prince did, he'd kill him. Later that day, everyone headed back to Phillips' apartment for a barbecue. Prince told Bland and Benuti to chill with all the blood and cuz talk since kids were around, but that didn't stop the tension from bubbling up again. At a liquor store, Prince got mad at Benuti for trying to buy weed. When they got back, Prince said he was about to handle Bland and Benuti. Bland wasn't having it. He told Prince straight up, "I'm not gonna let you mess with my homie." Prince said Benuti disrespected him, and Bland repeated himself, standing firm. Wandick stepped in and stopped things before it got physical, for the moment anyway. But the peace didn't last. Back at the apartment, Prince punched Phillips just because she hadn't made him a plate of food. When Wandick rushed to help, Prince grabbed her by the throat and told Bland to come get his girl. That was the last straw. They all left the barbecue. Phillips, Wandick, Bland, and Benuti. As they walked away, Phillips was fuming, saying she was sick of Prince and wished he would just die. That's when Bland and Benuti offered to kill him. Phillips told them not to, so Bland said he could just pistol whip him instead. Despite all that, they ended up going back to Phillips' apartment. And right away, Prince hit her again, knocking her out cold. After that, Prince offered Bland and Benuti a ride back to LA, and they agreed. Everyone piled into the car, Prince behind the wheel, Phillips in the front seat, Benuti behind Prince, Bland behind Phillips, and Wandick squeezed in between the two men. 5 kids were crammed into the back row. As they drove, Phillips and Wandick noticed something strange. Benuti was wiping down the door handle and window switch beside him, cleaning it like he was trying to erase fingerprints. He and Bland kept whispering to each other too. When they got to LA, Bland asked Prince to stop by a place he said was his cousin's apartment. Benuti went inside for a bit, came back, and they all continued driving. Then Benuti told Prince to pull over on 87 Place, saying he needed to stop there. But that street wasn't where Benuti lived. Prince, being trusting, pulled over anyway. Both Bland and Benuti stepped out of the car. Bland walked around the back to meet Benuti on the driver's side. And that's when it happened. Benuti pulled out a gun and shot Prince in the head 4 times. Then both of them took off running. Soon after, LAPD officer Jason Schwab got a radio call about the murder and set up a perimeter. He spotted 2 men hiding in an alcove, Bland and Benuti. The moment they saw him, they ran, but they didn't get far. Police caught them quickly, and right near where they were arrested, officers found the gun used in Prince's killing. Phillips later identified Benuti as the shooter during a field show-up, explaining that Prince had been an ex-Crip who'd been arguing with both Benuti and Bland, 2 active gang members. She also confirmed that the gun police found was the same one she had seen Bland holding earlier that day. In court, the whole thing started coming together piece by piece. Detective Q Rodriguez from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, known for being a gang expert, took the stand first. He explained that Bland, who goes by the street name J-Rock, was a confirmed member of Town Piru. According to Rodriguez, Bland didn't even try to hide it. He admitted his gang ties, rocked the tattoos to prove it, and was regularly seen kicking it with other Piru members. Even at that barbecue, Rodriguez pointed out, Bland was out there using blood slang like it was second nature. Rodriguez also broke down something that raised eyebrows in the courtroom. He said it's rare, but sometimes you'll see Bloods and Crips hanging together. So that whole situation with Bland and Benuti being close, it wasn't normal, but it wasn't impossible either. Then came Detective John Jameson from LAPD, another seasoned gang expert. He focused on Bernuti, who the streets know as Little Spider. Jameson said Bernuti was a solid member of the '87 Gangster Crips, backed up by his tattoos and his own admission to police. Now, according to Detective Rodriguez, the real spark behind this whole mess was disrespect. First off, at that barbecue, Prince told Bland and Bernuti to stop throwing around gang talk. No blood, no cuz, because kids were around. But to those two, that wasn't a polite request, that was straight up disrespect. In their world, you don't tell a gang member to drop their lingo. Things got even hotter when Prince tried to press Bernuti at the liquor store, and Bland stepped in to defend him. That move made Bernuti feel like Prince disrespected him, and Bland felt the same way when he tried to stop Prince from hitting Phillips, but Prince didn't listen. And when Prince put his hands on Wandick, Bland's girl, then said, "Come get your woman," that was the final straw. In gang culture, that's like spitting on someone's pride. Detective Rodriguez laid it out clearly. In that world, respect is everything, and the way you earn or keep that respect is by showing you're ready to handle violence, no hesitation. From stepping into that first argument to the eventual murder of Prince, every move Bland made built his name up in the streets. It showed he wasn't afraid to put in work when it came to defending his people. But Bland wasn't the only one who gained from it. Detective Jameson explained that Prince's murder gave both Bland and Bernuti more weight in their gangs. The location made it even more significant. It went down right in the heart of '87 Gangster Crip territory. That mattered. A killing like that on your own turf makes noise. People talk, the story spreads, and that's how a rep gets bigger. Jameson added that if the murder had gone down somewhere random like Bakersfield, it wouldn't have carried the same weight. But in their own backyard, that was power. Not only did they know the area, but they had people willing to hide them, cover for them, even help them escape if needed. It made them feel untouchable, but the law caught up quick. When it was all over, the judge dropped the hammer, 50 years to life for both Bernuti and Bland. But that didn't stop the Piru's bloody path, not even close. It's the morning of June 10th, 2006, and three homies, Deshaun Leslie, Ozzie Davis, and Davion Harvey, head out to the gas station to grab some cigars. Simple errand, right? But as they're chilling there, they spot a dude across the street, Phils. He sees them too, and the moment eyes lock, Phils hops in his car and peels off. Now, here's where the story gets real. Leslie Davis and Harvey were all part of the Treetop Piru gang, and Phils, he repped Fruit Farm Piru, straight rival territory. So yeah, there was already bad blood in the air. After that quick gas station run, the three men start walking through the heart of Treetop territory, probably not thinking much about what just went down, but out of nowhere, Phils rolls back up. No talking, no warning, just pulls out a semi-automatic and lets off 15 shots. The scene turns deadly in seconds. Ozzie Davis gets hit and dies right there. Leslie's hit too, badly wounded. Harvey somehow ducks behind a car and comes out untouched. But Harvey wasn't going out like that. He had a revolver on him and fired back at Phils as he ran off into the distance. When the cops showed up, Leslie wasn't saying a word. He kept his mouth shut, scared of what might happen if he talked. And honestly, who could blame him? Retaliation in gang life is no joke. But a few days later, something shifted inside him. Leslie decided to speak up. He told police that Phils was the one who shot both him and Davis. And this wasn't some random ID. Leslie knew Phils personally. Back when their sets weren't beefing, they'd actually known each other. Leslie didn't stop there. He also told police that he and Harvey had been involved in another shooting about a month later. But that story ended tragically too. Harvey was killed in a separate gang shooting not long after. It was a never-ending cycle of violence. Then came the pressure. Just a week before the preliminary hearing in November 2006, Leslie started getting those dreaded calls, death threats, real ones. They were telling him to keep quiet or else his whole family would pay. and on the day of the hearing, Fells was still trying to work the system. He made 2 calls from jail to the heads of the Treetop and Fruittown gangs, talking about how they couldn't get Leslie to back down. Afterward, they were all trashing Leslie for testifying against Fells. But when the trial came around, Leslie had had enough. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right and refused to talk. He was done. Because of that, the court allowed his earlier sworn testimony from the preliminary hearing to be read out loud during trial. That way, the jury still heard everything he'd said about Fells being the shooter. When it was Fells' turn to speak, he denied everything, said he didn't shoot Davis or Leslie, didn't even know them like that, except for Davis, who he admitted he'd seen before. He also claimed he never told anyone to threaten Leslie before or after the hearing. But that version of the story didn't line up with what the gang experts had to say. The prosecution brought in a gang expert who broke it all down. Fells was confirmed as a Fruittown Piru member, and that gang had a long rap sheet: murders, drive-bys, robberies, you name it. The expert also made one thing clear: Fruittown and Treetop were bitter enemies. Retaliation between them usually came in the form of bullets, not police statements. And most importantly, no gang member ever snitches. Doesn't matter if it's a rival gang or not. Testifying in court, that's basically signing your own death certificate. After all the back and forth, the jury finally gave their decision. Fells was found guilty on every single count. When sentencing day came, the judge didn't hold back. Fells was hit with 90 years to life in prison. Some of the extra charges were dropped, but it barely made a difference. Those remaining 4 were enough to guarantee he'd never walk free again. And yet, the cycle of violence didn't end. It just moved on, 6 years later and 50 miles north. On October 17th, 2012, things took a deadly turn in Palmdale. Enriquez was stabbed to death right inside the security gate of an apartment complex. Not long after, deputies from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department arrested 2 suspects, Crowder and Duke. Prosecutors later hit Duke with a murder charge, claiming he did it to benefit a criminal street gang. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Crowder and Duke didn't face trial together. They had different defense attorneys, but the same prosecutor handled both cases. And as the story unfolded, it became clear that almost everyone involved, the victim, the suspects, even the witnesses, had some type of gang connection. During the trial, a sheriff's deputy who specialized in gang activity broke down the street politics of Palmdale. Unlike Los Angeles neighborhoods, where gang lines are drawn deep and clear, Palmdale was a different game. Most of the gang members there were transplants. Their families had moved up from other parts of LA County. So in Palmdale, you'd have Crips, Bloods, and smaller local gangs all living side by side, sometimes even kicking it together. It was messy, unpredictable, and unlike anywhere else. Enriquez, the victim, and Duke, one of the accused, were both tied to the Rolling 60s Crips. But Crowder, Duke's partner, and the main one who threw hands in the stabbing, was from Fruittown Piru. Normally, that mix doesn't even make sense. Bloods and Crips don't team up, but in Palmdale, that kind of crossover happened more often than you'd think. Then there was Terrence Dorsey, Enriquez's boy, who ended up testifying against Duke. Dorsey had ties to the Kitchen Crips, but said he'd been inactive for a while. And let's not forget the other 3 witnesses, Anthony Palmer, Dion Tatum, and Kenneth Thomas, all members of a smaller neighborhood crew called Dime Block, which ran right around where the murder took place. In most parts of LA, having Rolling 60s, Fruittown Piru, and Kitchen Crips all hanging together would be a recipe for chaos. But Palmdale wasn't built like that. Out there, the lines blurred. Gangs that would usually be enemies in South Central might actually hang out, share apartments, or even have each other's backs. Still, even within the Rolling 60s, not everything was cool. There was serious tension brewing between Duke and Enriquez long before that night. Witness Anthony Palmer laid it out plain. These two had been beefing for months. Word was that Enriquez had been running around saying Duke wasn't a real rolling 60, claiming he never got properly jumped in. That kind of talk doesn't just bruise egos in gang culture. It questions a man's entire street credibility. And by the time fall 2012 rolled around, that quiet tension had turned into straight up hate. Now, months before the stabbing even happened, the streets were already hot with talk. According to Palmer, people in the gang world had been whispering that Enriquez was a snitch. Word was, when the cops found a gun that might have belonged to him, Enriquez tried to save himself by blaming his own brother, who was also rolling 60s. Palmer said he even heard Enriquez had dropped the dime to the police in a way that got him convicted for felony theft. So this wasn't just petty gossip, it was personal, and it was dangerous. Detective Richard O'Neill, one of the sheriff's gang investigators, later confirmed what the streets had been saying. He testified that Enriquez had actually been working as a police informant for a couple of months. Even worse, O'Neill revealed that the information Enriquez gave up led to the arrest of a drug dealer named Kevin Hart on the very same day Enriquez was killed. So by the time that night rolled around, the tension around Enriquez had reached a boiling point. When the case went to trial, the prosecution brought out 4 different witness accounts, people who either saw the stabbing go down or caught pieces of what happened before and after. Out of the 4, Palmer and Dorsey were the ones who took the stand. The other 2, Tatum and Thomas, claimed they didn't know or couldn't remember much once it was time to testify. But their earlier statements to the police were still read in court, so their words still carried weight. Palmer's testimony broke down exactly how the night unfolded. He said Duke, Crowder, and a few other gang members were chilling outside Duke's house, which sat directly across from the apartment complex where Enriquez was staying. When they spotted Enriquez behind the gate, the talk immediately turned dark. Duke and Crowder started saying they needed to do something about him because, in their eyes, Enriquez had turned rat. Duke went even further. He tried to convince Palmer to be the one to shoot Enriquez, saying it'd be payback for that theft case that landed Palmer behind bars. Duke even said he could grab a gun for him to use, but Palmer told them to chill, saying they should wait until later when there weren't so many eyes around. After that, he walked off for a bit. About half an hour later, Palmer came back. That's when he saw Duke and Crowder crossing the street, heading straight toward the apartment complex gate where Enriquez and Dorsey were standing. Crowder made the first move. He swung on Enriquez. Duke jumped in, hitting Enriquez once or twice. Enriquez tried to take off, but Crowder chased him down, tackled him, and that's when Palmer noticed something that made his stomach drop. Crowder had a knife in his hand. Duke didn't chase after Enriquez. He just hung back by the gate while Crowder handled it. Moments later, it was over. Duke and Crowder walked back across the street like nothing happened, and the rest of the crew scattered into the night. When it was Tatum's turn to testify, things didn't go the way the prosecution probably hoped. Tatum, who was tight with Palmer and part of that same dime block crew, acted like his memory had completely vanished. He said he didn't see the stabbing and couldn't remember much of anything from that night, but the prosecutors weren't about to let that slide. They pulled out a trump card, a recording of Tatum's police interview from right after Enriquez was killed. On that tape, Tatum gave a much clearer story, and it matched Palmer's version almost perfectly. He told detectives that the crew had been hanging outside Duke's house when he saw both Duke and Crowder flashing what he called big-ass knives. According to Tatum, they were showing them off, swinging them around like they were proud of them. He remembered Crowder's blade looking like one of those knives with brass knuckle handles, while Duke's looked like a big kitchen knife. He said he saw both men holding the knives as they crossed the street toward the apartment complex gate where Enriquez was standing. That's when Tatum decided to bounce. He said he didn't think they'd really do anything and truthfully didn't want to see anybody get stabbed. Later though, he was able to point out both Duke and Crowder in a photo lineup as the same two guys he saw walking off with those knives. Then came Dorsey's testimony. Dorsey was rolling 60s too, the same set as both Duke and Enriquez. He told the court that he and Enriquez had been chilling in the apartment complex that night, just smoking some weed, when Duke and Crowder walked up to the security gate together. Enriquez, not thinking much of it, asked if they wanted to come in and even held the door open for them. The moment he did, Dorsey said Crowder grabbed Enriquez and started stabbing him out of nowhere. Dorsey didn't stick around after that. He took off running. Next was Kenneth Thomas, another Dime Block member who was around the area that night. On the stand, Thomas claimed he'd never even seen Duke before and went as far as saying the police tried to pressure him into lying about what he saw. That kind of statement put a spotlight on the cops and made things messy. But Detective Brant House from the LA County Sheriff's Department told a completely different story. He said he interviewed Thomas just days after the stabbing, and back then, Thomas told him straight up that he'd seen what went down. According to the detective, Thomas described seeing Enriquez on the ground with two men standing over him. One of them was bent down, stabbing Enriquez, while the other one was standing guard, looking like he was ready to strike too. Thomas said both attackers seemed to have knives and that Dorsey was there but didn't take part in the attack. Afterward, he claimed the main guy just walked off and got into a car. Still, when police showed Thomas a lineup of photos, he refused to identify anybody. The medical evidence left no doubt about how savage the attack was. The coroner testified that Enriquez had been stabbed 15 times, 15, and more than half of those wounds could have been fatal by themselves. It was overkill, plain and simple. 2 days after the murder, on October 19th, deputies tracked down Crowder and arrested him. When they did, they noticed he had a cut and a scrape on his right knee, exactly the kind of injury someone might get from tripping and falling during a fight, just like Palmer had described Crowder doing when he fell over Enriquez. A search of Crowder's home turned up even more evidence. Investigators found a shoe with dried blood on it. Lab tests showed that blood had Enriquez's DNA mixed with DNA from an unknown person. Neither Crowder nor Duke matched that second sample. Then came a major break. An anonymous tip led deputies to two knives hidden inside an old mattress near where the stabbing happened. One of the knives had finger holes, just like the one Tatum said Crowder had, and it looked like it had blood on it. Tests confirmed the blood was Enriquez's, along with traces of someone else's DNA. The other knife, a regular serrated kitchen knife, had no blood on it. When the prosecution's medical expert took the stand, he confirmed what everyone suspected. The knife with the finger holes could have caused every single one of Enriquez's wounds. The kitchen knife, on the other hand, didn't match the injuries at all. By the end of the trial, the jury wasn't buying any excuses. They found Duke guilty of first-degree murder and agreed he did it to boost his gang's reputation. The judge didn't hold back either, sentencing him to 25 years to life. It took years of chaos, loss, and pain to get here, but for once, the streets of Compton were about to see something rare. In August 2024, something major went down in Compton, something the streets hadn't seen in years. Rapper YG stepped up and did what most people thought was impossible. He helped squash the long-standing beef between the Treetop Piru and the Town Piru, two rival blood sets that had been clashing for almost a decade. It all started with a peace walk that kicked off at Gonzalez Park. YG pulled up alongside the game and a crowd of locals, from OGs to young kids, all walking together through the neighborhood. This wasn't no staged media stunt. It was real love, real unity. You could feel the energy shift. For once, everybody was moving with one purpose: peace. Midway through the walk, the group stopped at Tam's Burgers, a local landmark with history in every brick. It's the same spot Kendrick Lamar used in his Not Like Us video, which made the moment hit even harder. Here they were, breaking bread where a piece of West Coast culture had already been immortalized, showing what growth and healing could look like in the same streets that once ran red. The significance ran deep. The Treetop Piru and Fruittown Piru had been at odds for years, and that war didn't just take lives, it split entire blocks, tore families apart, and kept generations locked in cycles of pain. So, seeing both sides come together under one cause, led by someone who came from those same Compton corners, meant more than words could capture. It wasn't just a truce, it was a moment that showed the hood what was possible when unity finally outweighed pride.